This is the story you are tweeting about the most tonight. Bobbi Kristina on life support now for 20 days. She has undergone now, as I predicted, a surgery for a tracheostomy. Family sources tell us her doctors are trying to slowly lift the medically induced coma, but they cannot because she has recurrent seizures from the swelling in her brain that is diffusely severely damaged. A lot of you are calling this progress and are worrying about things like will she ever sing again? These are things that are so far out of reach. Please, people, this is not what we've got here. We've got somebody who is not going to be able to get out of bed ever. Dr. Lloyd, it's time for us to have our little curbside consult here. The tracheostomy is in. Again, after you have an endotracheal tube for breathing in for too long, there's always a tracheostomy when there's limited or no probability that somebody's going to come off a ventilator. So we now know that the ventilator and the ICU are pretty much fixed for the time being. That suggests, does it not to you, how unstable this situation is?
Oh, no, I think we could talk about good news. You know, I was surprised this morning turning on the TV and learning that they had actually removed the endotracheal breathing tube. So I thought maybe she was brain dead overnight and we were going to move on to the next chapter. But no, this signifies that the family says we're all in and we're going forward for the long haul. So they're taking this girl to surgery to give her a permanent orifice, a hole in her throat, so that the artificial ventilation machines can connect to her without the dangers of the usual tubes. So this means they want her to stay alive.
Obviously they do. They're not letting them take her out of the ICU, but it reduces the risk of aspiration, the erosions that occur from the endotracheal tube. But don't you think we need to get a neurology consult here, get at least a probabilistic assessment of what is likely to happen with this girl that's been in a coma for 20 days?
She's probably already had 6 neurology
I want to bring in a neurologist now.
They already know.
And what do you think they told her?
Bobbi Brown is not a doctor.
What do you think the neurologist told her?
Is not a physician.
What do you think the neurologist told Bobbi Brown?
He's the father of this girl.
What do you think they told him?
He's saying, do everything you can do, Doc. Do everything you can do.
All right, so let me bring in a neurologist. I've got Dr. Lydia Shazhenko, neurologist, clinical neurophysiologist. And Dr. Shazhenko, thank you for joining us. We need a neurology consult. So you're somebody that assesses patients with what are called hypoxic brain injuries, people that are after resuscitations who've not had enough oxygen to their brain. And in this case, she was drowned. It takes about 3 minutes for the brain tissue to die, correct?
Correct.
And what we have here is a case where 20 days on a coma where they can't lighten up the medication because she's seizures. She's on a ventilator. She can't leave an ICU because she's so unstable. What's the probability? And we think it seems like she has limited reflex, limited response to the external world, no spontaneous movements, maybe some eye blinking. That's the story we're hearing from the family. We may be wrong, but this is what we're hearing. Given those constellation of findings, what's the probability that that patient, Bobbi Kristina Brown in this case, if what we're getting is accurate, what's the probability that that patient will have meaningful recovery?
Well, based on all the evidence that we have been provided, there's a high degree of medical certainty. There's a poor prognosis for any meaningful neurological recovery.
So what would the percentage be if you had to give the family a number, if they were asking you, but Doc, what's the percentage that this person could recover?
Well, recover back to the way she was before, probably 0%.
0%. So there's a 0% probability that she's going to recover, that she's going to sing. How about a probability that she's going to survive? What's the probability of that?
The probability of surviving is more closer to around 70, 80% given her age.
And what would that survival be like? Is she just going to be on a ventilator chronically, or is she going to be in a nursing home, contracted?
Probably on a ventilator and in a nursing home in a persistent vegetative state.
So
this is based on her history and clinical presentation. Here we have a young lady who was found to have asphyxia. So this is anoxic brain injury for more than 3 minutes. We do know that brain cells, neurons, start dying after 3 minutes, and it's an irreversible death. Of course, we don't know how long she was anoxic, but we do know that this was a significant amount of time. We do also know factually that the MRI of the brain showed edema, and this is a clear indication that there's a significant amount of diffuse neuronal cell death. Again, the EEG showed persistent seizure activity. Again, it's a very poor prognostic sign. So again, as I mentioned before, there's a high degree of medical certainty that there is a poor prognosis for any meaningful neurologic recovery. And what I mean by meaningful, meaning any ability to have any cognitive function, any ability to have any thought process, to appreciate life, to have any appreciation for any sensory modalities.
Thank you very much.
Very, very sad situation.
Thank you. It's very sad. And thank you, Dr. Zhenko. I've seen hundreds, maybe now thousands of these cases in my life. Dr. Lloyd, that's what I've been saying.